Conflict, particularly if it is prolonged, leads to a number of major challenges in connection with recovery. As national, regional and international actors struggle to address these challenges, not following a standardized process to assess the conflict, the resulting needs, and to plan recovery can lead to confusing and conflicting recovery initiatives.
For preventing such a chaotic situation, what you need to do is to harmonize the assessment, and basically it is to look into the underlying causes of the conflict and to identify the needs and come up with a generally agreed recovery plan. Then the international community, the national institutions can commit their funding, align their programs.
In 2008, the European Commission, the United Nations and the World Bank signed a joint declaration on post-crisis assessment and recovery planning.
We signed today a very important agreement. Why? Because we think we want to work together much more closely in disaster and also in post-conflict situations.
So, what is it? Recovery and Peacebuilding Assessments, or RPBAs, provide governments with a process for identifying the underlying causes and impacts of conflicts and crises, prioritizing recovery and peacebuilding activities, consolidating peace, and preventing a return to conflict. What does an RPBA seek to achieve? An RPBA has four primary purposes: to help governments identify, prioritize and sequence recovery and peacebuilding activities, to provide an inclusive process to support political dialogue and participation of stakeholders, to coordinate international support through a joint exercise and monitoring system, and to act as a mechanism that can facilitate early coordination of international support behind these activities. Who does what? RPBAs are requested and led by the government and receive technical support where needed from the EU, the UN, the World Bank and other international partners. They are undertaken by a range of actors, including national and local government representatives, international and national experts, representatives of donor and humanitarian organisations and members of civil society. So what is the role of the European Union?
At the beginning of the project, the EU was mainly a payer, but gradually, based on the ability to mobilize expertise through the project, but also through the stronger involvement and commitment from different EU institutions like the EAS, like DevCo, like NIR, like ECHO, the EU has been able to take on much more of a stronger role in the assessments and be able to influence them in the sense of taking EU concerns into account.
Since 2009 in Nigeria, nearly 15 million people have been affected by the violence of Boko Haram and the resulting military operations in the northeastern part of the country.
This has led to almost 1.8 million people displaced from their homes. We have hundreds of thousands seeking refuge in the neighboring countries of Chad, Niger, and Cameroon. Over 54% of these numbers are children. The conflict has also led to disruption in social services, damage to infrastructure. The economic development in the region has also suffered significantly.
Following a formal request from the federal government of Nigeria for assistance to identify needs and responses to the crisis in the 6 northeastern states, an RPBA, a Recovery and Peacebuilding Assessment, was conducted in Nigeria.
The expectations were essentially for us to have the right information in terms of the data, in terms of the numbers, to then begin to have a coordinated and coherent approach to solving the problems. At the core of all of this was also an analysis of the drivers of the conflict, because the truth is we can replace the structures, but if we don't understand what the drivers of the conflict are and don't have a framework to addressing that, peace building, social cohesion within the community, building trust, if we're not able to put those things back, then everything can crumble again.
From the very beginning, we wanted, as I say in Nigeria, to walk the talk and not just to talk the talk. We wanted a framework for action. And that framework for action, which was led by the 3 institutions and their technical experts, was quickly translated by the government of Nigeria into President Buhari Action Plan for the Northeast, which is now in implementation. People are now today getting help and support in a way that they would not have got if the RPBA did not exist. Schools have been rebuilt, health centres have been rebuilt, boreholes have been cleaned, jobs have been created, vocational training programs are underway. These are a result of the clearly identified needs from the RPBA.
When we produced the RPBA, the EU was one of the very few donors that were present and were ready with substantial financial means. But still, it was very difficult to decide where to start from. This RPBA helped us to identify the priorities we should be working on, but also to agree with the other donors who should do what.
The RPBA was very helpful in creating a framework for engagement of many development partners in Nigeria. It also bridged the gap between the humanitarian and the development challenges.
They bombed the place. They bombed the place. They started shelling.
On the basis of the RPBA, the federal government and the 3 most affected states have created state plans to prioritize and sequence stabilization and recovery interventions, as well as create an institutional framework that will ensure coordination between the different levels of government, federal, state and local government, and partner organizations.
It was a positive experience in terms of getting and achieving the results, but in terms of also building the supports, building the consensus. I'm not sure we've done or had anything like that before. So from the federal government point of view, there was the ownership and there was the leadership. But what was more important was to engage actively the states, because that's where the impact is directly. Recognizing them, having them on board the process, it was positive. It's been a good experience. It's also been one that was worthwhile because it wasn't just something that was done and put on a shelf, but it's something that's actually being translated into action.
The nice thing about the RPBAs is that there is an instrument up in Brussels, which is managed by the FPI, and they have a framework contract, so they can send experts out to delegations to help the delegations participate actively and be real players in the RPBA. In other words, it doesn't fall solely on the shoulders of the existing staff. You get backup from headquarters, and that is really important. And certainly in the context of Nigeria, it was essential. Without the very efficient, the very professional expertise that Brussels provided to us to help us in this, we could not have done what we did in the RPBA in Nigeria.
In recent years, RPBAs have been used for a variety of purposes in countries such as Cameroon, Central African Republic, Mali and Ukraine, amongst others. They are a unique exercise of collaboration that brings together national actors and 3 of their most important international partners. It ensures attention to issues that will, in the long term, help prevent a return to crisis and help ensure that interventions are provided as quickly and as effectively as possible to those who need them most.